about to start. We'll talk about code or whatever we'll talk about today. It's about to start, so please hang tight while I check that everything is okay. Sound check, camera check, lights check. How's my hair? Oh, wait, I don't have any hair. Maybe put some pants on and I am good to go. So get ready wherever you are, 'cause this stream is about to start. Get ready wherever you are, 'cause this stream is about to start. Hello everyone and welcome to the last meeting of the year for the C++ Digital Signal Processing, JUCE and other things study group. How are you all doing?
Good, good. I think you're the one that's in the worst condition.
I'm hanging in there. I have been better. So here on the call we have Fotis. Hello Fotis, and also Bo. Hello.
Hey.
Hello.
And on the chat, we have Tail and Mage. Thanks for joining us. I'm glad that you all are here. So, have you been working in C++ digital signal processing, JUCE, and other things related to that?
JSFX.
Awesome.
HISE. I finished the thing that I was planning on doing. It's not as impressive as I would hope. It's a bit underwhelming, but hey, I finished it.
Okay. I thought today we could start with Bo, since last time we kind of had to rush his part of the update at the end.
Sure.
So, Bo, do you want to go first?
Sure. Share screen.
Yeah, you go ahead and do that, and I will do my part of things real quick.
Yeah. So I've been somewhat, I missed this one thing that I haven't done, and that's the de-essing thing with the compressor. But I did make the that weird distortion thing. That I'm calling Onions.
That thing where you split the band and distort the low end?
No, this is a different one actually. So this is it's a 1-bit distortion. Do you remember that?
A 1-bit distortion? No, I don't remember that. What is this one?
Can you see my screen though?
Yeah, we do see your screen.
So what I'm doing, anything above a threshold is either, if it's positive, it's going to 1. If it's negative, it's going to -1.
Oh. Is it similar to that thing that Florian beats Brastein? What's his name?
I don't
Florian
know.
Rugala. He did something with the zeros and the ones. But no, that was about gain, not distortion.
Okay.
So what you're doing, Bo, is like winning the loudness war, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That is exactly what Dan World did, and Florian turned it into a plugin. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, and that is low pass after it's been, well, what would you call this?
I would call this extreme clipping. It is an extreme form of distortion.
Indeed. So this extreme clipping thing. So the plan is to make a lookup table that for different sort of sample levels, converts it into a level in well, a lookup table for samples, and then low passing that. As of now, it's just this extreme distortion things where it's either like +1 or -1. But I will give you a sample of what I'm surprised at how I thought it was going to sound much worse than this, but
we don't hear that.
hear anything?
You haven't shared your
Oh,
audio.
I did the same. It's the same thing. Then I'm going to need to stop sharing.
I guess another way of thinking about this is that this is a bit crusher because you are representing samples with a single bit.
Yep. Can you hear anything now?
Now we hear that.
Oh yeah.
Oh, cool. So this is the regular bass sound. And then with the distortion.
Wow.
And it has, so here's the low pass. And I've added a threshold at where it sort of, so it doesn't, as the volume gets lower, let's see how So if it doesn't do that, did you hear that? The noise?
Yeah.
So I've added a threshold thingy to prevent that.
Oh, is the noise because the signal got too quiet and then it's kind of just noise and you are amplifying that noise? Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. But it sounds kind of okay. You can blend the original signal. But so my issue is, how do you make a lookup table in JSFX? I can only do the if else, but how do you?
Yeah, so first of all, I want to understand why you want the lookup table, because I think we can do it. I just don't know why it is necessary.
It's for my indulgence.
Yeah.
It's for my. Yeah, I'm experimenting.
Okay.
Simple as that.
Fair enough. So I can think of two ways of doing a lookup table. The first, as you mentioned, is with a conditional. So you would just look, is the value less than minus 0.9? Or else, is the value less than minus 0.8? And so on. Perhaps instead of saying this, I could show you this. Hang in there.
Do you just stack like these conditional statements, or?
Yeah, exactly. That's why I want to show you this so you can understand what I'm talking about. So you would do something like a sample. Is it less than, let's say that you already clipped the sample between -1 and 1, just to simplify things, but you can extend this concept. So is it less than minus 0.9? If so, then some value. Otherwise, is the sample less than 0.8? Is it? If so, something. If not, is the sample less than 0.7, and so on. Of course, these are probably too coarse values. You probably want more fine-grained values in here. But you get the point. It's just a lookup table where you're doing this with conditionals. That's one way of doing it. The second way I can think of doing this is to use the big chunk of memory that we have available for us in JSFX. So you would have something like lookup table. And at position 0, you would have a value. At position 1, you would have another value. Position 2, another 2, I said, another value, and so on. And then to use this, you would do something like look up table off and you have a number that is your sample that goes between -1 and 1. I said that we are simplifying things here. So you have a number between -1 and 1. What you want is for a number between 0 and 2. So a number between -1 and 1, you can add 1, you get a number between 0 and 2. You divide by 2, you get a number between 0 and 1, and you multiply by 2, which is kind of silly, but imagine that there are more positions. So 3 and 4 and 5, there you go. Times 5, you get a number between 0 and 5, but of course you have to floor this result. Or, yeah, floor this result. So you don't get 2.5. You end up with like 2. So this is going to do a lookup on that table and get the values from there. So I probably there are other ways of doing this. You can try and be smarter about the way you structure the conditionals, doing what's called a binary search to reduce the number of comparisons from linear to logarithmic. But at a high level, these are the two ways of doing this that I can think of. One represents the lookup table as code. The other represents the lookup table as data. And this is going to do a memory access, and this is going to do a bunch of conditionals. In general, memory access is going to be faster. So I think that this solution is better. But this solution is not terrible either, I don't think. Especially if you do the clever thing of doing the binary search to reduce the number of conditionals. Does that make sense?
Somewhat. I need to look back at this in the code. The first example where it's below such and such. Where do you below 0.9? Then where's the then?
Oh, so this is the then block, and this is the else block. And I am chaining conditionals. So perhaps it helps if I indent the code. So I guess it would go something like this. I don't know if this helps, but this is how it would go. So you have one conditional. If that conditional is satisfied, then you have your value already. And this is the else block. The else block is another conditional that is chained. So you keep asking the question until you can answer yes.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. So those are the ways I can think of doing a lookup table. And this is how I have seen in code that other people wrote.
Okay, because I'm thinking, is there an example of this somewhere in the effects, JSFX?
I'm sure there are examples of this because I remember seeing this before. But
I googled for lookup table and JSFX, but nothing popped up.
Yeah, I think it was Thale who was showing code that included that lookup table like this. And in his code, if I remember correctly, it was even smarter and it was not doing the assignments line by line like this. I think that this is the most straightforward way of writing this, but I think there is something that, like one of the functions, similar to memset, except that it's not for a single value, it's for a series of values, and then you can do all of this in a single line. But I forget. And
did you say anything in the comment?
Perhaps. Memset values. Thank you, Thale.
Awesome. I'm gonna need to watch this back. I just watched the pitch thingy you did yesterday. I watched it back this afternoon. It was cool. Very interesting.
Yeah, in fact, the thing you have with the threshold to prevent noise in your distortion is very similar to the solution we arrived at for reducing noise in the pitch detector. Yeah. It's to establish a threshold. That was kind of interesting.
Yeah, awesome. Let's move on. So
before we move on, Tail mentioned this
Sure.
function, and that's the function that was used, and it is not documented, is it? I don't remember seeing documentation for this, and I try to look for it right now, and yeah, it does not exist here in the documentation. Interesting.
Oh yeah, another thing with the you can see my screen now, or can you see my screen?
Before we do that, yeah, so yeah, Tail is one of the only two people who know about this undocumented function. It seems like someone else knows about this. Who did this? I don't know, it's not signed. But someone knows about this. Oh, here it is. EE33 knows about this, and Tail knows about this. Fun stuff. All right, so yeah, we are back with your screen.
Oh, cool. Because when there's no audio, it goes to a value. So it jumps to a value. It jumps to either like whatever. So I'm getting a DC. I could like set a DC filter, I guess, but is there a way to sort of zero out when the audio is not playing? Or sort of mute it as the playhead is not moving?
I think the default DC remover in Reaper does that.
Oh, I'm getting a DC signal. I can see it on my interface. There's a DC signal going.
Yeah, I can see it on the meter. Do you have the chokehold implementation of the DC offset filter?
Yes, I do actually.
But isn't there a way for us to not even generate this DC signal to begin with?
Yeah, I was thinking that too. There must be sort of a zero when as the playhead is not moving, and then.
But is this what you want? Because audio may be running through the effect if the playhead is not moving, because you're doing real-time monitoring.
That's the case. Yeah, that might be the case.
So
maybe
I don't. There is a way. There is a way. There is a way for you to look at the state of the project to see if you're playing, if you're recording, if you're paused. There is a way for you to do that. You have this. I think you. I would have to look up the documentation because I don't remember, but it's like X something something play state or whatever. But I don't think that that's what you want. What you want is probably to just, if the value is below the threshold, don't produce the signal. So I'm looking at the code here and trying to find where that would happen. And yeah, so you're multiplying by gain, which is making SPL0 large, and then you're comparing it to the threshold. So if it is above the threshold, you output 1. That may be the problem, because that's the DC we are getting.
Hang on. I found some error in the code. Other error in the code. The threshold when it's above, it's. Can you repeat that, please? Sorry, Leandro.
Yeah. So if there is no audio running through the plugin, you are still multiplying by gain dB. That's the first line in the sample section.
Yep.
And gain dB could be a large value, which would make the SPL0 value large. And then it would be above the threshold, and then you output 1. That's the DC signal you're getting.
Yeah.
So I guess what we could do is compare with the threshold before the multiplication, and if it is below the threshold, don't multiply, don't do anything else. In fact, just stop processing audio altogether.
All right. That's a good point.
Do you think that makes sense?
Cool. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And like you said, if I do a sort of mute when I stop the playhead, I might mute anything, any other effects or any whatever delays I might have going. So that makes perfect sense.
Yep.
Yeah, cool. I can work on something. Awesome. Next. What do we have next? We have, the splitter. So I changed the distortion to the super simple sine distortion, and it sounds much better. It's not that fizzy. So this is a much nicer distortion.
Why is it much louder on the right-hand side?
Yeah, that's the next issue. I'm having this issue with the split thingy, and also with my compressor. And it started when I did the conditional thingies. I have no idea why this is. I've looked through the code so many times.
Okay.
So whenever I've added a sort of a conditional statement, as in slider 4 here, it just starts veering to the left. And it's the same thing with the compressor that I'm working on.
I'm moving my head so they can see the rest of the code, but the value of lower is the same on left and right. And the values of SPL0 low and high are different from SPL1 low and high. So probably the problem is in some formula that should be doing things to the left and right separately. Oh, I think I see a line that stands out to me. Line, I can almost point at it, but it is the line that starts with SPL1 high minus equals B1 plus equals. Do you see that line? It's the high pass line. You commented high pass.
My eye as well.
No, not this one. The equivalent one for the right channel.
Yeah. There you go. That's the one. Yes.
Okay.
Do you see how it's using SPL0 there?
Oh yeah. Yeah, it uses SPL0. There you go.
And also this line here. Did I accidentally delete something? Shouldn't this be double SPL?
Well, isn't it there? SPL1 low equals SPL1 low times gain. That's there.
Yeah, that looks okay.
Oh yeah, it's double down there. Oh yeah.
Yeah, try the effect now and see if it is correct.
Oh, error. Where did I get an error? Define low cut equals line 33. 31, 35. Okay, so this is line 33. It's empty. No. It's not liking tanh undefined. Okay. I removed the oh man.
You commented it out.
Yeah, And I only changed the sign distortion on one side. Or there's another thing that could be weird.
Oh, there you have it.
Recompiled.
Yeah,
Very nice.
it's completely mono.
Awesome.
Good job.
Oh, great. We
Well
fixed
done.
it. Do you remember how it sounded last time?
No, I don't remember how
the-
it sounded last time.
Okay. It was kind of gnarly, grungy, sort of crossover distortion. And this is much nicer. I prefer this one.
Tail always knows.
They love
Yeah,
it.
what's it saying in the chat?
He said, shouldn't SPL0 be SPL1? He caught the
All
same
right,
mistake we caught.
Thank you, Tail.
By the way, Bo, if we would like
Yep.
some ideas for JSFX distortion, there are some interesting JSFX that are not in a repack. I have shown a JSFX by that person before. Their name is Ashcat. And that person who made that JSFX that did the parameter sample and hold. But in the stash.reaper.fm, you can find a lot of interesting guitar and bass distortion JSFX. Some of them are interesting in that they allow you to only distort one half of the waveform. Some others have some interesting distortion things that I haven't found anywhere else. I mean, they're truly unique.
Okay.
So you can get them and read the code and see if you can fudge something out of these ideas.
All right.
Yeah, that was intentional, the way I used fudge,
Yeah.
Only true ball followers will understand the fudge.
I get the fudge.
Okay.
This reminds me of an idea I had at some point. I like installing stuff with repack. You all know that. I even created a repack repository for SWS so that I don't have to install SWS separately. At one point I thought, wouldn't it be fun to have a repack index file for stuff that you find in the stash? So I would write a script that traverses the stash, finds all the things that are JSFX, finds all the things that are scripts, and just packages that as a repack thing. And then you could import that repository and get the Reaper stash in your machine. Wouldn't that be fun? Do you think that would be fun?
Oh my God, please do that. Please do that.
Really?
Please. Yeah.
I think that
Yeah,
that
it
would be
sounds like
fun.
a great idea. It's a great idea.
There are some hidden gems in the stash.
And I guess
Yeah, I
this
think
would
it
be
just-
one of those repositories that you don't want to install everything from, but you could cherry pick and you would have an index just like every other index in repack, and you could cherry pick the things you like from there. But it would be nicer than having to go to the stash, download, put it in the right place, reload, blah, blah, blah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Yep. Indeed.
And it would be a nice way to find some of those JSFX that people don't know about. I mean, some people wouldn't even use a repack, and I would only find their stuff in GitHub before they found out that repack existed.
Yeah, I'm not on repack. I'm not on. I have a GitHub account, but so I haven't uploaded anything. So that not even to the stash, but I should get that going, I guess.
Yeah, it's not too hard to do.
No, I know. I need to sink my teeth into it. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Anyways, so the compressor, which also does this left-right
Oh,
thing.
wait. Your voice is distorting.
Yeah.
My voice is starting. Okay, that's the DC thing, I guess. Is it better now?
Yeah.
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 You got attacked by the DC.
Death by DC. Is there a DC filter? DC filter. Look at here. Look at here.
Yeah, there is.
So, yeah, not working.
Oh.
That might be because I am adding it to the wrong track. So.
Oh, wait, is that the song of yours, Perfect?
Yes.
That was a great song. I loved it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It's the bridge for the bridge, the drums and the bass and the bridge. Mm-hmm. And the drums. Also, the compressor also has a tendency to veer to the left, or sort of make weird noises. And again, I can't seem to find. Oh, what I did also, I should add. I've tried a feedback code that it's not working, but I might have to troubleshoot that separately. What else did I add? Yes, the feed forward thing, but that's not working properly. I need to consult John on this, Tukan. But can anyone see like an error in the code which might make it weird left?
Well, I'm gonna bet that there is another one of those problems where you copy and paste code for the left and right, but forget to change one of them. So you can try and find it, but
eagle-eyed tail might spot something.
Are you multiplying by the threshold the sidechain as well? That's kind of odd. I don't think it's wrong though, because it looks symmetric.
You need to push that's the in level. So.
Oh, because if you're doing a sidechain, you are doing the thing to the detector signal chain. You know, what you could do is have something like this, where you do like detector is equal to sidechain, if so, sample 2, otherwise sample 0. And then anywhere where you need to do things like multiplying by the threshold, you do that to that, and then you don't have to copy and paste code. This is going to be a single place where you detect whether you want to use sidechain or not, but then the rest of the code doesn't have to have a bunch of copy and paste, and that may help with these kinds of issues you're running into. Also, it will be ever so slightly faster because you're doing this conditional only once, but it's probably going to be negligible.
Okay, cool. Because it's the old version before I started on the external sidechain thing. It didn't have this issue, so that might be it.
Maybe. And yeah, so I guess we could read this and at some point find a place where a variable was supposed to be 0 and it's 1 or vice versa, but I think you should do this change I'm mentioning because I think it will simplify the code and at the same time make it faster. Win, win, win.
Yeah. This is why I'm asking you for help, so I can get these kind of tips.
Sounds great.
But yeah, But that's what I had for this meeting.
Great job, actually. You managed to not write C++, and we all appreciate that. But yeah, you're making good progress. I'm liking where you're going.
Cool. Yeah.
Awesome. And I remember you already have designed the GUI for the revolver compressor.
Oh yeah. That's a different hill to climb.
Yeah.
Designing stuff in C++.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, can I go next?
Sure.
You are not going to believe this. This week, I actually looked into C++ stuff. That's amazing.
Whoa.
So yeah, I got back into my code base for the auto mixer in JUCE, and I was overwhelmed by all the boilerplate yet again, because I spent a week without looking at it, and then I couldn't really remember all the things that were in the boilerplate. It's not so complicated, let's be honest. It's not too much code. But still, the whole infrastructure producer wanted to update and blah, 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 and I was like, not sure I'm liking this. I like the JSFX approach of being minimal, and JUCE is too big. Let me look at iPlug again. So I looked at iPlug again. And of course, I started with Tails' version of iPlug because I know Tails. So if I have to ask someone a question about iPlug, I better ask the author. Let me go to Tails' version of iPlug. And I looked at it, and unfortunately, I decided that it's not for me because as far as I understand, and Tail, correct me if I'm wrong, it only supports VST2 and audio units. I don't have a license for distributing VST2. I haven't been in the business for that long, and Steinberg stopped allowing people to release VST2s. And so that was kind of a deal breaker for me. I wanted to do VST3, and perhaps I could try and implement VST3 support. Tail came to the channel and talked about how he implemented support for clap. So if I follow along those footsteps, I should be able to do VST3 perhaps, or maybe there is already a branch implementing VST3, or maybe I'm just not understanding things right. But in any case, I looked at iPlug 2, which is Oliver Larkin's version of iPlug. And that one supports VST3. It may also support clap. It's kind of on a branch, and I think it's kind of experimental, but whatever. I'm mainly interested in VST3 at this point because it is the thing that is supported everywhere. And audio units, VST3 and audio units. So I looked at iPlug 2, and I found something that was super interesting. Since we were talking about doing user interfaces in C++, I found that super interesting. It is this thing called a WebView. Web UI. There you go. So this is one of the example projects that come with iPlug 2. And what it does is a bridge between regular C++ things, audio processing in C++, and the UI components in the operating system that can draw HTML. So this is not implemented in C++. These buttons, this progress bar thingy here, these things are not implemented in C++. They are using the WebView. In this case, in macOS, it's using the same engine used by Safari. It's using WebKit. On Windows, it uses something else. I don't think it uses the same engine as Edge, because that would be Chromium, and I don't think it's using Chromium on I'm dying here. I don't think it's using Chromium. It's using something else on Windows, and it's super experimental, especially on Windows. But this allows me to do a user interface in JavaScript and CSS and HTML. That is amazing to me. I much rather write HTML and CSS, not only because I know it better, but also because I think, in all honesty, it is a better way of specifying user interfaces. Having access to Flexbox,
having access to the grid API, having access to all the HTML components, like the progress bar here. That is just remarkable. I really like that. And then I did this one little thing that like blew my mind. It may be silly to you all, but what I did is I pressed the keyboard shortcut for bringing up the web inspector, and the developer tools are available in the plugin.
All right.
For me, this is amazing because it means that I don't necessarily have to recompile the plugin to see a change. I could come like here and inspect and start experimenting with things, and then, oh, okay, I like this positioning, I like this color, I like this and that, copy and paste into the HTML that is backing all this in the project file, in the Xcode project. And this is what the user interface is going to look like. So it is kind of in the same spirit of Electron that I have used before in my streams and that I like, but it is not bundling Chromium. It's not 100. It's not 100 megabytes. It is, this whole plugin is like 5 or 6 megabytes because it's using the drawing engine, the HTML engine that already comes with the operating system. I really like this. Now, the thing is, this HTML and JavaScript needs to communicate with the C++ part of things and vice versa. Because when I change something like I move a knob, in this case it says gain here and it's a sine wave. So when I move the knob, it needs to know that it needs to output a louder signal. Of course, it needs to update the parameters of the plugin and vice versa. If something changes, like I write some automation for this parameter, then the DAW is saying to the plugin, you should update yourself. And then the HTML and JavaScript needs to get a hold of that information, and that works as well. So there needs to be this bridge between the two parts. And it's not very well documented how all of this works. You sort of have to dive into the source for this to figure it out. It doesn't seem to be too complicated. My next question is, can this handle a complicated component, something that is not just a knob, something that is not just a little progress bar? Can it handle my beloved waveform displays? Can I get samples from the audio thread, push them into the HTML, JavaScript, CSS thing, and render it here at 60 frames per second in a way that doesn't lag and that works well, that looks good? That's the question that I want to answer, because I know it is possible in C++, of course, but the bridge between C++ and HTML may not be as fast. There may be some overhead in there. So I guess the next thing I'm going to do in terms of the auto mixer is going to try and do a waveform display in HTML, because I do want to have a waveform display when it comes to designing the final auto mixer plugin. So I will try to do that in HTML and see how that comes out. Yeah.
Cool.
I don't know if you have been paying attention to my expression for the last 5 minutes, but what? What? A GUI? Oh my God, I can't believe what I just saw. I mean, I have some background in HTML, but I would never imagine a plugin development in the... Wow. I need to process this. Oh my God, this is mind-blowing.
It is kind of an experiment too. As I said, on Windows, it's super experimental because you have to bring in your own DLL, and then you have to do some custom stuff in your installer to bring that DLL. In macOS, at least, it can find the view component, the WebView component, and work with that, but you have to bring it. It's complicated. It is experimental. So I went into the Discord server for iPlug 2, and I asked around, and it seems like there are other people like me who are interested in doing this, and they are using even things like React to do the user interface, which I'm not gonna do.
Oh yeah.
But in theory, you can. And yeah, I'm looking forward to see if I can do a complicated display that needs to communicate samples between audio thread and user interface, all using JavaScript. I'm looking forward to seeing if that works. And another thing I did while I was learning about iPlug is I had to dive into the source, because it's not like there are thousands of tutorials and videos like there are for JUCE. But I like what I see much better in iPlug than I liked in JUCE. The code seems to be simpler in ways that I like. For instance, it's using lambdas instead of using classes and overrides for most functionality. So I kind of like the style that they have there. And of course, because it came from the Reaper community, it integrates with the JSFX way of thinking about things much better. Some of the drawing capabilities, if I were to do the drawing in C++, the functions, the primitives that you have available to you are similar to the JSFX primitives, if not the same in some cases. It's not always the same, like you have access to different thicknesses of lines in C++.
Oh, that one. That's a big thing.
Yeah, it is for me, yeah. But anyway, I liked what I saw when I was diving into the source. And one thing I learned from reading the source is kind of interesting to me. When I was doing my original waveform display, I spent so much time experimenting with different ways of doing it. And one of the big questions for me was, do I do the processing of samples to go from 48,000 samples in a second to like maybe 100 pixels to represent a second, right? You have to go from 48,000 samples down to 100 pixels. So you have to accumulate a bunch of samples into one column. And this is processing of audio. Do you do that on the audio thread? Well, but it is for displaying a waveform, so it's kind of a graphical thing. Do you do that in the user interface thread? And in the end, in JSFX, I decided to do that in the audio thread, but I have a way to detect if the user interface thread is running, and I only do that work if necessary. So from the audio thread, I compute stuff that will be used for visualization, but I do that conditionally, only if you have the user interface open. And it seems like in iPlug, they don't have exactly this. They don't have exactly a waveform display, but they do have this sender. And it seems like they're doing the same thing I did. They do the processing, like if you need to compute RMS, if you need to compute some ballistics for some kind of envelope, they do that. They do that in the audio thread and only send the already decimated signal, the already processed signal. That's what they send over to the other thread. So I found that interesting that they are doing more or less the same thing I did. And even with similar data structures to communicate between audio thread and user interface thread, they use a similar mechanism for lock-free concurrency with a circular buffer and multiple heads, one for writing, one for reading, one catches up to the other. So it's kind of the same structure. I found that interesting.
Cool. Tail pointed out that the iPlug Web UI might not be as future compatible as other.
Yeah. So Ben is, hey Ben. Ben is like all of us, really liking this, which is amazing because I learned that this existed from watching the talk that you can find in the homepage for iPlug 2. And it is this talk. It is from 1 or 2 years ago, so it's relatively up to date, and it is a good talk. It gives you a good overview. Unfortunately, it's not like what I was hoping this would be, like a step-by-step, this is how you get started. This is how things are organized, and this is the way of the land. That's not this. It's just a high-level overview of things that iPlug can do. But then it's mentioned in passing, like, oh, and using a WebView, you can do a whole interface. You can embed a WebView in a bigger interface that you draw with C++, or you can have the whole plugin be a WebView. And then let's move on to another topic. And I was like, no, wait. I want to hear more about this. I definitely am interested in this. It seems like I'm not alone. And yeah, for me, it is a game changer because not having to write all the C++ to do the user interface, it's probably going to be a better looking user interface. And it's going to be much more comfortable to write to. And Tail is confirming that for the time being, no VST3, probably soon. Maybe we can contribute to that and get this to work, because I would love to use Tail's edition of iPlug. And they add that, it may be incompatible in many ways. And that is true. When you're doing the whole interface in C++, you're sort of in control of the drawing, but using a web interface, you are at the mercy of the operating system. But I am already in that space. I know how to work with multiple browsers in different versions, in different devices. That's my bread and butter. That's what I do for a living. So yeah, I'm pretty sure I would rather deal with this problem than the problem of learning a whole drawing engine in C++. Now, this may not be true for everyone, but for me, it makes sense. From where I am coming from, it makes sense to die in this hill.
Yeah, imagine if you could do all those fancy HTML5 or CSS stuff on a plugin GUI. That would be super cool. Plus, it would be help for resizable GUIs, right?
Yeah, in fact, in this example that I was showing, there are these buttons to resize the UI. So yeah, absolutely, this can be. In this case, they wrote code that is not dealing with this very well. Oh, it seems like it's not dealing with this well at all because it's not resizing the canvas. But I'm sure there is a way for you to put a little handle here that resizes the green stuff, the part of the interface that is actually the web component. And if you have that, if you can resize the web component, then resizing and rearranging elements is a piece of cake comparatively.
Yeah, and
that's the problem we know how to. I know how to solve well. That's a problem that I'm familiar with.
And yeah, this is the way that Reaper handles VST3 plugins. If you had done a VST2 plugin, I think those buttons maybe wouldn't have worked so well. But you would have some extra sliders on the right and the bottom of the window.
I see. Yeah.
Anyway, so is it time for me?
Yes, that is my update, and that's what I'm planning on doing next. So I will be doing this WebView waveform display. I even saw some libraries that do this already, so maybe I could pick something off the shelf. The BBC seems to have a library to draw waveform displays because they have some kind of editor for audio and maybe even video that the BBC people seem to use. I don't know. Maybe for news gathering? Who knows? Anyway, they do have a library for waveform displays that I may be just able to use. Wouldn't that be great?
I didn't know that, but I did know that the BBC does have a massive collection of impulse responses on their GitHub.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it even has some immersive audio libraries that support impulse responses with up to 720 channels of audio. So I think they're pretty much future-proof. But yeah. Anyway, before I begin, my voice is a little bit down, but it's not. I don't have an infection that I know of. But the job I have at school has been a bit taxing on my own voice. I'm not gonna get into details. I'm not even going to share stories. So instead, I'm going to do what we do best, and I'm going to use audio technology analogies. So my classes, after a couple of tiring months, I have successfully added some DC offset removal and some anti-aliasing to my students' brains. Now all I need to implement in their brains is some kind of resonance suppressor. Like if I could install some Galfos or Soothe 2 or whatever into their minds, I would be having a ball. But there's still some resonances ringing inside my brain. Sorry about that. So yeah, I hope that made some sense. I'm not gonna go any deeper. This is how my teaching job is in a nutshell, just lecturing. Anyway,
Okay.
so before I show my thing, I have some stuff that I remembered when Leandro was talking about his waveform display. And I think maybe this is interesting. So this is a free clip. It's a free clipper plugin by Venn Audio. And what I really like about this is that the interface. I mean, it's so intuitive. They even boast about it here. But when you feed it audio, you see Melda production audio, you immediately see the waveform, how it is being affected. Right? So the red thing is the clipped audio. So when you turn down the clipper, down the ceiling, it shows you what's happening. And this is a variation. Actually, this guy recreated this plugin in GitHub with a different name, Peak Eater. It does pretty much the same thing, except it's open source. And he does plan on creating a new version. Is it this one? Yeah, it's this one. I don't think he has any pictures, but I did see in the commit that he is planning to recreate the same kind of waveform display as free clip. So when he does, I'm going to share the repository with Leandro so you can take a look at how he did it. Maybe you'll find it interesting. Nice. And one final thing that you may find interesting is this. I found it a couple of hours ago, actually. It's not a pitch detector, it's a key detector. I think that's a bit different than pitch detector, right? Because you're detecting the key of a song.
Yeah, I guess you would have to not only... You can either just detect pitch of a melody and then collect all the notes and find the scale, or you could try and do a polyphonic detection right out of the bat, and that is interesting.
Yeah, there is a commercial key detector called Tonic by Z-Plane, the same people who made Elastic Pitch. But this thing seems to have been created in FAUST and JUCE. And unfortunately, they don't have the raw FAUST file. They have implemented it in C++. Where is it? There it is. So you have this massive file. Let's see how many lines it is. Oh my God. The whole FAUST code has been vomited into this C++ mess. But yeah,
hang in there. Stop there.
Yeah.
Bo, see, that is a lookup table for MIDI notes.
Oh yeah.
From MIDI notes to their textual representations. And that's a lookup table using code. That's a C++ version of the code that we wrote in JSFX, the first option.
So yeah, you may find this useful as well, and also you can find the juicer, the producer project file. Now that we got these things out of the way, let's go to HISE and see what I made. I didn't even get to make an interface, both because of time constraints and also because I was so tired and uninspired that I just gave up. But this is how this thing sounds like. Oh, and another cool thing, you can actually detach the keyboard, and the preview, so you can use them at the same time. And also you can create infinite keyboards and previews if you want to blow up your computer. Anyway, so you may remember how this thing sounded like in the previous session. This is without all the effects. Can you hear it? Yeah, you can hear it. So
it's faint, but yeah.
Yeah, that's the way it's supposed to sound. It was a Carplus strong harpsichord that I found on GitHub. And it was a FAUST file, but unfortunately HISE is pretty bad at implementing FAUST instruments. So instead I sampled it twice in Reaper, and I added the low pass filter on the second sample, so it round robins, and it sounds like it's kind of plugged up and down. It's a fairly simple effect, but it gets the job done. I didn't want to go into specifics. I just wanted to get this thing done. So what I did here was, you can see 3 instances of script effects at the convolution reverb. So the first one is the amplifiers, the bass and the drive. Unfortunately, the only one that I could manage to work is a FAUST script called Simple Drive. It's pretty cool. I couldn't get those Guitarix distortions to work. I'm still waiting for them to fix the stereophonic plugins problem in HISE, but until we get there, sometimes I do tweak the code. I add those semicolons or less than symbols, and sometimes it works. So you have to turn up the drive first before you turn up the bass. And yeah, you can see that I have changed the knobs. I'll show you how to do it, but first, this is with the drive. Boom. Finally some life. And with the bass, it's subtle, but it's meatier. And without the bass, it sounds thinner. I didn't actually understand what the offset thing does, but when I have the drive turned down and I turn up the offset, I get no sound at all. But if you have the drive turned up and the offset down, and then I turn it up again. Oh, no, wait, that was my mistake, sorry. Let's try again. So this is this note without offset, and this is with offset. Okay, it doesn't make any difference. I don't understand why it's there, but whatever. We can look at the code later if you want. But first, let's finish this. And you can see, and before I implemented those reverbs, I actually did that layman's way of implementing an Air Windows plugin, the Slew 3. It's a linear phase filter, so making an impulse response file of that filter didn't have any unwanted effects. It did exactly what I wanted it to do, because this drive thing is actually a bit harsher without the slew. Sorry. So Slew 3 is one of my favorite low passes of all time. And even if I haven't been able to port Air Windows in HISE yet, this is the next best thing. Just don't ask me to implement the Z-plane filters yet. That's a whole other story. And then we have the reverbs. I tried to make this as interesting as possible at the last minute. This is called Zeta Verb. I found this in a I don't know where those filters originated from, but I found them in an installation of an application called Ossia. Have you guys heard of Ossia? It's like this environment for live music production Not performance. I mean, live multimedia things. Let me show it quickly. I can share the link later. So it's score. So yeah, it's a bit
Fotis,
annoying.
have you
when
started
people...
1,500 projects on GitHub?
Yeah, I was wondering when you would notice that, but yeah, I like a lot of GitHub things, and I make a lot of lists, and I still haven't completed them yet. But yeah, I like GitHub. So this thing is OSIA's core, and it's a modular environment that you can use for live shows or presentations or whatever you want. And I guess you can make music, but it's designed to create interactive shows. You can use OSC, MIDI, blah, 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 pure data. It doesn't say it here, but it also incorporates FAUST. And that's where I found this reverb, zeta verb. And let's hear it in action. Get out of the way. So this is the mid reverb, which is very powerful. It has this little ping pongy thing that I like. Low reverb isn't much on its own. It's almost inaudible. But when you turn up the mid, I don't know, it sounds a bit better with a low, maybe a bit farther, or maybe I'm just having a placebo effect. I don't know.
No, I like it too. I think reverb makes everything better.
Yeah. No, I
Are
mean,
they in
the
series
between
or
low and...
are they in parallel or in series?
Good question. Let's see the code. And
because if they're in
else?
series, it would make a tangible difference.
Yeah, you're right. It would make a difference. Let's go to HISE, metal chord. DSP, code library, FAUST. And yeah, what else was I going to show? Not the harpsichord. Yeah, I'm gonna show that as well, but first the reverb. No, let's see it in a less eye-burning way. Let's hear. So this is head and bottom. No, this is the stereo reverb. Blah blah blah. I think they are in series. This implements the blah blah. Out EQ. I have been a bit better at understanding the FAUST code, but still I'm stuck right now. So, but yeah, from what I can understand, yeah, they are in series. Not, I don't know. And what else was I going to show? Simple drive. Oh yeah, the offset thing. So this is the slider. Okay. This is where the offset does its thing. It's doing a clip. You also see the offset here, but yeah, still don't get what offset is supposed to be doing in that drive. But yeah, you have some smoothed out parameters, so that's cool, right? And I think no, I didn't add this thing, so anyway, and let's go to the final reverb, which is also from that bundle. And oh, what do we have here? Let's zoom out and find out. This is another pretty cool HISE preset, which allows you to combine multiple script node effects and create a dry wet knob of them. Sorry, I think this is a dummy. Oh, there we go. You don't need that. So this is another FAUST reverb called instrument reverb, but it was a bit boring, so I thought I would turn it up a notch. No, that's a terrible analogy. It's an opposite of a notch. It's a peak filter. That was a terrible equalizer pun, and I'm sorry. But I did this thing, and this is how it sounds like. Get here. If I turn off the biquad, it's not as interesting. And I wanted something to name reverb high. Anyway, that's the thing. And one final thing I wanted to show for this is, no wait, I always get confused. When you want to make a slider like the base one, this is a note to myself so I can remember because I forgot again. First you have to go here, and this function is pretty cool. It allows you to connect macros to any kind of parameter. For example, I could create this post and then tell it to be connected to this one, and then you press this warning icon, and do you want to copy the range of the first target, and boom, it's done. But when you want to create the knob for the interface, you have to turn up and down the slider to see how it functions, to see what the values are. And then you have to go to the interface and go to the base. There you go. And you have to input them here. So you have to tell it that the minimum is -10 and the maximum is 10. If you go to drive, the minimum is 0 and the max is 100. And I think there's also a kind of way to use, I forgot again, but there is a way to use percentages instead. You can do it with 100 here, obviously, but I think, oh yeah, there it is, the normalized percentage. And also you can do it in a different way. You can do it like a slider or like a range. But yeah, this default knob is pretty cool for the time being. Now, this is it, but my update is not yet done because I want to show you guys something. Something else. So this is the last meeting of this year, so I have something that's a bit special to you guys. So let's go back in time and remember how this meeting, this study group began in the first place. I don't know, yeah, Leandro and Bo did know each other, but I randomly discovered Leandro via YouTube recommendations on the right hand of the screen, and it said Reaper live coding or whatever Leandro was doing at the time. He was creating his first set of JSFX, and my very first message on his chat was, Leandro, you're saving Reaper. And Leandro said that when he was like, from what? Anyway, this is how Leandro and I became friends and started exchanging emails. And one day when he did his first chat with Tail, that was when I had volunteered on a KVR thread project that was about a bunch of freeware synthesizers by a developer called Kevin Brown. Most of them were 32-bit, some of them were in 64. I'm gonna share my screen again. I'm gonna show where those synths are in. K Brown synths. There you go. And this is the website. You may have come across this. Wait, you have to wait for the background to load.
Are these Windows only?
Unfortunately, yes, there are
Okay.
Windows only because, and this is where my point is, they were created with FlowStone, which cannot create macOS or Linux plugins. Mm-hmm. But you can download them and check them out if you want. Oh, Martin Vikanek is here. But if you're interested you can download all the plugins here. Now, one thing that caught my attention is that all of these plugins actually have the FlowStone project with them. So they are technically open source. Anyway, so I volunteered on that thread because a person, I forget his name, but he said that they would invite me to their Slack group back when it was free. And they would give me a copy of FlowStone, and all I had to do was load the FSM, the FlowStone project files, and then export the remaining plugins, these ones, in 64-bit. And I did it on most of them, and it worked. Here they are. I could link to the KVR post where I posted this in my Google Drive, but unfortunately some people reported some bugs with this, and for example, some 2-second bursts or something like that. I don't know if it's a copy protection in FlowStone because I still don't get it. But when Leandro and Tail were doing their stream, I asked Tail about this, and he suggested that I should recreate them on C++ and something, and that caught Leandro's attention, and he sent me a message suggesting that we should make a study group together. And I said, cool, let's do this. And thus began our year-long. We've been doing this for a year, right? Almost.
Amazing, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And we have been through so many things, and now I feel a bit, now that we have demystified so many things about audio production and technology, I am ready to get into this with fresh eyes. And I tried rebuilding that thing I found on JUCE, that synth lab thing that was like Reactor. I tried building it today because it has had some updates, but it failed again. So instead, I'm gonna use whatever, either HISE or JUCE or Bespoke Synth or Cardinal or whatever. But my goal, my milestone, and probably my New Year's resolution is to take all of those amazing project files by K. Brown and recreate them from scratch in a cross-platform plugin for everyone for free. And so this is, I'm gonna show, I really hope Kevin Brown is cool with this. I'm gonna show the schematic of this random thing. So I like that Kevin uses those fake names like Yamaha or Roland or Chorg, for copyright reasons. And these things are not meant to be 100% accurate recreations of the synths. What Kevin really was interested in, I don't have them in here, unfortunately, but if you go to the sync folder again, you can see that along with the plugins and the source files, he also has, no, not here, sorry. Let's go with Chorg, yeah. Some of these are also bundled with the manuals of the original synths, and Kevin did an amazing job studying them, because what he was really interested in was the signal flow, the structure of the synths, the way that, why did they use two oscillators here? Why did they use these specific VCFs? Why is this thing here? Why is that thing there? And this is what I want to discover for myself also. I want to pick this apart. And do you know how to pick this apart? You double click on them and boom! This is the skeleton of the synth. This is everything. You see the oscillators, you see the mix. FlowStone is really getting annoying sometimes. It does have some annoyances in its GUI. You don't have a horizontal slider. What's up with that? But apart from that, if you go to this oscillator, you can see the insides of the oscillator. This is not unlike synth maker or reactor or whatever. It's basically the same philosophy. And if you go to this, where was it? Let's go to this oscillator. No, you have to click on this module, and you go even deeper in the rabbit hole. You see it gets scarier and scarier. No, this is not. Also, you can't turn this off. What's up with that? I mean, FlowStone is like the opposite of quality of life. And also, I like what people have made with this. Both Kevin and also this guy on KVR called DSP Plug. You can get a lot of his plugins for free. Some of them are paid, but he also provides the FSM files. But unfortunately, I have been disappointed by how heavy the FlowStone plugins are on the CPU, even on Reaper. Also, they are very slow to scan. That's why I call it SlowStone. So if you go here to this sawtooth and you go to the multi, where was it? I found something cool, but I forget where it was. No, that's not it. Come on, SlowStone. Slow rate? No, that's not it either. I do remember it was in the oscillator. See, this is why I have to take notes. The zipper. This is a nice little function. No, this is an effect. Come on, where is the code? Product selector? No, that's not it. VCA? No, that's not it either. But anyway, I swear I found a script somewhere in this mess. Come on, is it the gain knob? No, that's not it either. But yeah, there are some scripts in this thing, I swear to God. Did it crash? Oh, almost it crashed. Oh, anyway, I can't find it. I give up. But yeah, the thing is that there is some code in here. I did find it. And I don't understand what language it was. So that's why I wanted to show it to you guys. Maybe you could help me out. Or maybe I could just read the help file. Who does that? Oh, there it is. There you go. That's the one. Yeah. It's a polynomial. Oh, I see. And maybe you recognize the polynomial thing because it's also the oscillator that Surge XT uses. You know, the polynomial differentiated waveforms, which allows for anti-aliasing. So does this kind of code looks familiar to you, this language? Or is it FlowStone specific?
The first definitions at line 7 and 8 and 9 kind of look like C, where you specify the type and then the variable name and then the value. But then things like mol PS, that starts to look like assembly to me. I don't think it's something I recognize, no.
Oh. That doesn't mean I have to learn this thing too, right? But,
it may be something that is specific to it. It may be a language designed by the FlowStone people.
Yeah, just like the HISE script. But anyway, this thing is just an oscillator. I don't think I have to learn how to code this. And besides, the good people over at the HISE forums have already made similar things in HISE script. And David Healy in particular has been making some amazing tutorials lately. So I could pretty much hit the ballpark. It's ironic in a way because this is an approximation of a hardware synth, and what I'm going to do is an approximation of an approximation. I'm going to get the best out of this in HISE or whatever. And I could also use Bespoke or Cardinal just for prototyping these. Right?
Yeah, so Fotis, here's your answer. Tail confirmed that this is assembly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, specifically, it's probably doing something that is.
SSC2.
Yeah, it's probably doing well. I guess it is. The oscillator
maybe.
is something that really needs to squeeze the most performance it can from the hardware. So that's why it's using this kind of technology that allows you to do processing of a whole bunch of numbers in one cycle of the clock.
Oh, maybe that answers the question why FlowStone is unable to create macOS and Linux plugins.
Maybe, yeah, that may be it. And even the compatibility between, I saw on the website you were before that there was some conversation about 32-bit, 64-bit, and I don't think that you can just translate assembly like that. I think you need to do some work to go from 32-bit to 64-bit.
No, you actually can do that. Oh, wait. No. This is how you do it. You just click this.
But there you have it then. But I don't think it will be squeezing the most out of the... It may be compatible, but it may not be squeezing the most out of the processor. Just like running Rosetta 2 in a Mac with an M1 processor. It is compatible. You can run the software, but it doesn't run as fast as a native M1 piece of software. Yeah,
and that's another reason why I want to turn this into cross-platform open source things. I am obviously going to consult Kevin Brown if he's still around. I want to get his blessing. But yeah, this is why I joined the group in the first place, and I think I am ready to go to this finally. Thanks to you guys and all your support and knowledge.
Awesome.
And when I finally get to code something, I'll just cry to you guys for help, like as usual.
I'm looking forward to it.
What's that thing online for? So yeah, that has been my update. And also, final thing, speaking of bespoke, a couple of students of mine were actually a bit interested in music production. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. And I showed bespoke to them, and they found it very exciting. They didn't have any background in music production or technology, and already they started making cool stuff. And as we speak, they have probably installed it on their computers and making trap beats.
All right.
That's cool with me. Why am I blinking again? My window is blinking.
I don't know why Skype does that.
Whatever.
Isn't it recognizing who is prioritized in the? I think that's.
Oh yeah, that's speaker view.
Yeah.
Great view. Yeah. Oh yeah, you have to go to view and change the speaker view to great view or whatever. Anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah,
cool.
I have my hands full. I have to convert like how many synths are there? On the K Brown archive, there are close to almost 200. Yeah, oh no, they are 210 synths. So I have a lot of work to do for 2023.
Good luck. Yeah, so
Thank you.
here on the chat, someone is talking about Cabbage.
Oh, yeah.
Pelinar DSP is talking about Cabbage.
Yeah.
You have experience with that, right? You looked into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did load some ready-made presets and exported some plugins with it. You can even build some VCV rack modules, but I haven't tried it with Cardinal. But yeah, Cabbage is pretty cool. It's just that I have to learn C sound, and I'm more interested in learning HISE script than C sound. No offense.
Fair enough. Right. So I guess moving forward, we are not meeting 2 weeks from now because that's already the holidays. The year is almost over. But how about we reconvene in January the 4th, which is 2 weeks from now?
Awesome.
So 4 weeks.
Yes.
Or
do you think that works for you all?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, it does.
All right. So I see you in January. But before we go, I do want to say that for my other things that I have going on besides this study group, I think I'm taking the rest of this week off and try to recover from this and stop coughing so much. Mm-hmm. But I will be back next week, probably on Monday next week. And I suppose that the thing is that is the most exciting for now is the data bending thing. So I think I will return to that, but we'll see. And yeah, let's say thank you and goodbye to Pelennor, DSP, Tail, Mage, Nod, Ben, and Strato.
Oh, wait, that's my dad. Hey, Dad. What did he say? I
recognize the last name.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like Commander in Commodore 64. Oh, yeah, it does.
Right, so thank you all for joining us on the chat. Thank you to everyone else who is watching this. And thank you, Fotis and Bo, for joining me on these meetings. And also Siwitz, who is not here today, but has been with us for many meetings of the C++ study group. And it has been awesome to hear from him as well. So for the study group, have a happy holiday season. I will continue to work on other things on Monday. If I recover, season, I think I will recover, and then on Monday I will be back. So yeah, thank you.
Support Leandro via Patreon.
Yeah, go to the link in the description, and from my website you will find links to Patreon, PayPal, GitHub sponsors, all the places, Bitcoin, all the places you can support this work. But just by showing up and being active on the chat and watching, it's already a kind of support that I appreciate. So thank you all very much. I see you on Monday. Hopefully, I hope I get better. And thank you all for joining. Have a good one. Bye.
You too.
Bye.
Thank you for watching the stream. You know how great it has been. Or maybe it sucked, and I am glad that you stuck with me. And soon we'll all be back together for some more coding or talking or chilling. The next time I'll be streaming.